Welcome back to my 100-day drawing challenge 2020. Today is day number 48 and the prompt is pose studies. So last year I really just drew some poses. I looked up some references online and tried to copy the poses into the sketchbook and just did some doodles and some studies to try and improve the way that I draw poses and the way that I draw figures. This year I really didn't want to do that again. One of the things I've been really proud of with this year's illustrations is that I feel like they all feel like finished illustrations, or at least most of them do. I've really been putting a bit more effort into giving each illustration some kind of background, even if the background's quite simple or if it's just a block colour or a colour around the border. More so than last year, they feel like finished illustrations and I feel like I'm not just drawing a character in white space, I'm actually drawing a completed drawing, and that's something I've been really proud of. So for this prompt I really didn't want to give that up and just do some pose sketches. I wanted to do a finished illustration, or at least draw a character and colour it. So I did some pose studies similar to last year in a separate sketchbook. I just looked up some references online and also used a few photographs of my own and just kind of copied the poses and sketched them out. And then I decided to pick one of the poses and draw a character in my actual 100-day challenge sketchbook, so at least I drew a finished illustration. I decided to go with a pose that was kind of like a fighting stance, sort of. I just liked it because I liked the fact that the legs were kind of offset and both of the arms are up in fists, I don't know, and there was a little bit of movement in the shoulders. I just thought that it was interesting, and so that's kind of the pose that I went for. I didn't really have a clear idea of what actual character I wanted to draw or what colour scheme I wanted to use or anything like that. I didn't really have a concept for this drawing. So to be honest, I do feel like it turned out a little bit uninspired. Like, I quite like to always have a theme with my drawings, which is why I think I enjoy having a prompt list, because then there's like an overall theme to the illustration that I can play with. I love picking colour schemes and like trying to apply as many different kind of character design elements to the character as possible to really tie it in with that theme. That's one of my favourite things, and I think that the prompts in this challenge so far that have allowed me to do that have been some of my favourites. So this one, I will admit, wasn't super inspired. I didn't really have an idea of what I actually wanted the character to be. So I kind of just came up with something and went with it. I do really like the colour palette that I ended up choosing for this. I ended up choosing some bright blues, some really dark deep blues, and purple. And I just think it works really nicely. I really like her skin tone against it as well. I love the bright blue that I used for the border. I just really think that the colour palette turned out really, really pretty. But yeah, admittedly, it just doesn't have much to do with the character or the pose or anything. Like, nothing really ties together. There isn't really an overall theme with this drawing, which is the one thing that I'm a bit disappointed about. I feel like in and of itself, it's an okay illustration. I quite like how the pose turned out. I do think I probably could have done better if I'd have like sketched it a few times and really practiced it. But I don't think it turned out badly. I think the pose is fine. I really, really like the colour choice. I like the character. I love that she has this really long flowing hair. I just really liked the idea that because the pose had so much movement in it, I really liked the idea of giving her long hair so that it could really be like flying around her, and I just felt like it would look really dramatic, and I really like how it turned out actually. So yeah, pretty much the only thing that I'm disappointed about with this one is just that there isn't really much of a theme going on, nothing really ties together. I don't really feel like this illustration has a purpose or like a reason to have been drawn. Does that make sense? I really, really like just applying an overall theme to my drawings and really giving them a lot of purpose, and this one doesn't really have that. Other than that, I really like it. It was a really fun practice illustration. I had a lot of fun drawing it and picking out the colour palette, and I do think it looks pretty. So that's all for today. If you're interested, there's a link to the full challenge playlist on screen and in the description. Subscribe if you'd like to keep up with me completing this challenge, and I'll see you tomorrow for another prompt. Take care.